Thank you so much for the opportunity. So I'm Anirban, and I'm going to talk about our Chi 25, like this year's Chi paper on OSINT clinics, which is about co-designing AI-augmented collaborative OSINT investigations for vulnerability assessment. I'm going to talk about what I mean by OSINT and the context and how we designed and what kind of insights we got from designing these AI-augmented investigations. Um, so according to the 2019 Verizon Data Breach Investigations Report, 43% of all breaches affect small businesses. So these businesses have important data like customer credit cards, email addresses, which can attract hackers. Now, these businesses can strengthen their defenses by getting an increased awareness of, like, say, their vulnerabilities and receiving very practical and cost-effective ways to mitigate them. So here, cybersecurity clinics offer a potential solution. So they are educational programs which provide essential cybersecurity services to community organizations like small businesses, nonprofits, local governments, and and this is where students kind of work together, let's say from an university, and then they get that real world experience while providing value to these small businesses. So this is the clinic model. And this model has recently seen exponential growth and a lot of support from private charities, the government, and the industry. However, these clinics face scalability challenges because these are time consuming, and it's really resource intensive because of the need for training and also running the investigations. So in our paper, we propose the concept of an OSINT clinic where students can learn OSINT skills and then work in teams to apply them to perform vulnerability assessments of small businesses. So this is fast and cost effective and zero touch in nature, which helps with the scalability challenges. Now, what is OSINT? OSINT, or open source intelligence, is a powerful investigation technique that involves the collection and analysis of publicly available data to meet specific investigative needs. For example, it draws from diverse data sources like social media, satellite images, data breaches, among others. In this cybersecurity context, OSINT can be used for attack surface mapping, which is identifying all publicly accessible digital assets like websites, servers, and social media accounts. It can also be used for brand monitoring, which is examining review sites and social media mentions for the small business. This is in the context of a small business. And it can also include breach data discovery, like finding leaked credentials on the dark web and other sources. Now, to scale up these kind of investigations in the context of small businesses and performing vulnerability assessments, we have three questions. So what are some of the challenges while performing these assessments in the OSINT clinic? And how can generative AI, for example, large language models like ChatGPT, address some of these technical and collaborative challenges that are present in these investigations? Finally, how can it support uh, real world investigations when they're doing it with real clients? In terms of related work, we bridge two important areas of recent HCI literature. First is clinical computer security, which defines protocols for addressing targeted digital security threats for personalized hands-on support. For example, CETA runs these clinics for mitigating technology abuses in intimate partner violence or IPV contexts. And the second line of research is CSCW research focused on generative AI tools that facilitate sense making and collaboration. So we are trying to situate our work at this intersection of clinical computer security and CSCW research to kind of highlight how AI augmented systems can empower novice investigators in navigating complex OSINT tasks. In terms of method, we adapted the matchmaking for AI method, which was introduced by Liu et al. For co-designing these investigations. So here the method allowed stakeholders, here students, to actively contribute to the design and development of effective tools for these investigations. We ran the co-design study with a group of 6 undergraduate students during the 2023 and 2024 academic year last year. So here our study is divided into 3 parts. For the first study, we identified the key challenges across the intelligence cycle through which the tasks are performed. And then in the second study, we utilized generative AI and collaborative uh, AI platforms as probes. So these are technology probes which help us to explore how AI can be used by novices to address some of these challenges and develop the skills for these investigations. So here we analyze the user experience and workshop design ideas to see how AI can augment. Finally, in study 3, we piloted real world investigations with 3 small businesses, and we saw how curated AI prompts could be used in real world investigations. We saw that the small businesses valued these assessments and also found the recommendations actionable. Now moving on to the probe. So we used ChatGPT with its plus features like web browsing, image analysis, and custom GPTs as one of the probes. The other probe for understanding collaboration among team members who are performing these investigations, we use the Team GPT platform, which provides which has a personal chat where you can use the AI model for personal use, and then you have a shared workspace where you're working with the entire team. And there are features like commenting on it, commenting on others' prompts, forking it to your personal workspace. You can also store or save prompts in a team library, and you can also uh, collaborate by kind of organizing all the prompts and the responses that you think are useful. So we tried to leverage these as ways to kind of understand how generative AI can be used in this context. So coming to the findings quickly, we saw from the first study that there are a bunch of challenges that exist across these phases of planning, collection, processing, analysis, and dissemination. Again, due to the lack of time, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the planning, processing, and dissemination phases. For example, with planning, it's hard for them to understand the ethical and legal boundaries of these investigations. And also dividing up work properly is hard for a novice team. In terms of processing, they're dealing with high volumes of information because with social media information and public information, there's a lot of unverified information that you're coming across. So how do you verify that and how do you handle that at scale? That's something that was challenging. And in terms of dissemination, because this was a new team, it was hard for them to understand what would be a good product that could be actually delivered to small businesses as clients because they are non-technical. So just tailoring their results to the clients was challenging. Now, how did generative AI kind of support some of these challenges? For example, during planning, the team used AI to generate templates to streamline some of the planning. And then the leader of the investigation kind of used it more to help the team kind of stay structured and stay on track. However, the participants kind of needed to refine the plans based on their own preferences and capabilities. And this highlighted the need for human oversight to achieve the goals. Moving on to the processing part. So it was used for formatting and summarizing information. And then it was also used to identify the gaps in the data that was found. And then AI could talk about new tools and also some other verification sources that the team could use to make the investigation more thorough. However, some of the verification suggestions were unfamiliar, and then they needed to put in a lot more extra work to leverage those responses from the AI. Moving on to creating the reports. So it was used by the participants to simulate client feedback that would help them iterate. So what was unclear, and then getting a sense of what works and what doesn't, and how to improve the recommendations that we are making from these investigations. So it did help kind of structure the findings in a way that's concise and can look polished. However, there were privacy concerns during these final stages. As like say before mentioned, they tried to keep it general. They were not giving specific information about the client because that would be leaking private information. And then they were just trying to give a broad scenario and getting some high level thoughts on how to uh, make those recommendations based on it. So in terms of collaboration, we found that the shared workspace that I was just talking about did help kind of with the visibility of what others were doing and how they were using generative AI. And it did help with the division of work as well because people were aware of what's happening. And then the leaders used the prompt libraries a lot more to kind of provide structure, and then everybody forked off and did their own thing. However, there was low engagement on the shared workspace after the initial phase. That was mostly because they did not want to crowd the entire workspace. Some quick discussion. So we show how we extend the matchmaking for AI method to cater to learners and the clinic model. And we were trying to achieve the learning goals and perform collaborative real-world investigations. So we found generative AI supported learning across the OSINT workflow by helping students structure tasks, generate templates, and interpret results. It also enabled collaboration among participants, though there were challenges with generalization, consistency, and privacy. Finally, we propose future research on effective AI integration in these contexts, which requires privacy safeguards, case-specific prompt customization, and support for leadership.